Okay. Okay.
I'm trying to find this one annotation that I like actually understood, but I can't find it.
Sorry, I forgot to grab my book, so you guys just get to see my house. Fine.
Oh, here it is. So on page 63, when it's talking about how just because people hear that they're good for nothing and are incapable of learning anything, that they become convinced of their own unfitness. And it has the example of like the peasant feels inferior to the boss because the boss seems to be the only one who knows things and is able to run things. And this is pretty like common, I guess, in like your everyday life, like in class or at your job. Like you're not gonna like think you're better than your boss or you're better than your professor or whatever, because obviously they're the one with the schooling, they're the one with the degree. And I feel like it's hard to like say your professor does something wrong. It's hard to like be like, hey, you did this wrong, because it's like, okay, they should know what they're doing, like I'm not gonna question it, kind of thing. So that was one of the only things I really related to.
Well, and I feel like that can vary depending on like the situation or whatever. Because I have a incident where I had a patient code and we started doing compressions and like did all of the things. And typically when I don't know if any of you guys, I should know if freaking Carly or Shelby was going into healthcare, but that's here nor there. Anyways, if somebody is not intubated, like the tube down their throat or whatever, when you're doing the bag mask, like to do the breaths or whatever, you're supposed to do your compressions and then do 2 breaths and then start compressions again. And anytime a code happens, like respiratory is there and like the doctors and like all these people. And the whole time that I was doing compressions, respiratory was also giving breaths the whole time. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's wrong. And I said something. I initially wasn't, but once like we got him back and like he was going off to the ICU, I was like, hey, question, is this right? And they were like, no, that's actually wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, they were doing this and they were like, well, you should have said something like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, who am I to know? Like they're respiratory.
Right, exactly.
They should know these things. I know it because I've been in healthcare for a million years, but it's like things like that. Or if I should have, honestly, I should have just been like, hey, wrong. Let's do it the right way. Because you do bag the whole time if somebody is intubated, which he wasn't. So it was just like, I'm just going to keep doing my job, just keep on going.
Yeah, right. And that goes along with this. Like you were like, oh, who am I to like say something, because they obviously know what they're doing, when eventually you found out that they didn't.
Yeah.
That also happens a lot when I'm in healthcare as well. That also happens a lot with medication, like dexamethasone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a medication you can give oral or IM. And a lot of physicians, I mean, they're supposed to specify, but a lot of us would just do it orally, and none of them would turn back around and like tell us, hey, I want it done like IM. So kind of those things too kind of play into that as well in healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Well, there have been like I had another time where we had this woman who needed her sugar like below whatever they wanted. I can't remember what the order said, but they wanted it below a certain amount before they sent her home. So I go in, I'm checking it like every 30 minutes or whatever, and it was a new baby doctor, so all the baby doctors come into the hospital in like July, and it's a hot mess because they're, I mean, whatever, we need new ones, but oh my god, I hate when they're there. And this baby doctor ordered a crap ton of insulin, and like enough to just pretty much like kill her. And the nurse was like, hey, did you mean to do this? And the doctor was like, yes, you need to give her all this insulin. And the nurse was like, I don't think that you meant to do this. And she's like, no, that's what I ordered. We need to give her this insulin. And what happens? We freaking bottom her completely out and then have to turn right back around and to like giving her dextrose and glucose and all kinds of shit to make her come back up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you would have just listened to us in the first place, maybe this wouldn't have happened, but you're the doctor.
Right.
Actually, being a diabetic, I know how horrendous that person must have felt, because oh my god.
She went from like upper fours to like 40 because
that's not okay.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep. And both of us were like, that seems like a lot.
Better give her some apple juice. Oh my god. Some peanut butter.
Yeah, I was like, lady, eat these things.
Oh man, that's horrendous.
Yep, it was not cool, but she said that that's what we had to do, and we were like, okay.
So on page 63, I'm happy you mentioned this page because I actually have 2 notes on it. The one, like, circulating what we've been talking about. So my situation that I related, my past relationship, it was like a very controlling relationship where I ended up very isolated and stuff like that. So I said, like, to the point where it's talking about self-deprecation is another characteristic of the oppressed, I said, I understand this. In the past, I internalized my oppressor's opinion of me. I believed I was, too emotional, that I was the problem and that she knows everything and how to do everything, the second note was further down the page where they start speaking of, I think, let me move my tab real quick. Oh, they're talking about the peasant where they say, excuse us, we ought to keep quiet and let you talk. You are the one who knows we don't know anything, and they often insist that there's no difference between them and the animals. I said,
it too.
Comparing themselves to an animal is so dehumanizing. Animals deserve to be treated well, of course, but we literally eat them and own them. So, like, I don't know.
They don't really have an upper hand at all.
Yeah. And
Which
to say that they're freer than you.
Which at the end of the day, if you really ask yourself, like, I look at my dog, because I have a dog. I look at her when I go to work and I'm like, I wish I could be a dog today. Just because I could just sit on the couch and I could just go to sleep.
I can't tell you how many times I have looked at my dog and said, bro, you go to work today.
You need a job.
I'm like, mom's gonna stay home and I'm gonna sleep and eat, and you go to work, you'll be fine. And I mean, he'll give me those eyes like, oh, what, mom? And I'm like, no, go to work.
Back to the premise, though, you could probably use that as one where it says they are freer than we are. You could make a statement for the first one for chapter 1 that they're technically not freer than us if you put it into perspective like that.
No. Well, and if you think about it, humans are the greatest cause of extinction since like the 50s.
Yep.
So like how are they freer than us when people get pissed when humans come into their home, but now they're in the wrong because, well, why are they here? Yeah, I'm like, anytime I see little news things of like, lion eats poacher, lion da 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 da, I'm like, yes, good for the lion, eat those people.
That lady, that polar bear exhibit.
Yep.
Like you went in that whole exhibit knowing you know what was gonna happen with that Polaroid.
Yep. Well, in R.I.P. Harambe, like, hello, you're gonna go into a gorilla? You're gonna let your kid fall in? No. Like, don't get mad when a wild animal is doing its natural basic instinct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like it's no different for us if we have like an intruder in our house. Like our first instinct is to like protect ourselves, whether that's like get like the biggest knife from the kitchen or if you have a gun from your closet. Just it's just a natural instinct.
It's fight or flight. So yeah. Well, and also when I read that first line of that quote where it says, "Excuse us, we ought to keep quiet and let you talk," the first thing that came to mind was Kanye and Taylor Swift.
Oh gosh.
I was just reading and then I chuckled and my husband was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Nothing."
I mean, that's also like, Carly, how you compared it to your last relationship. Like, not necessarily like my last relationship, but just like anytime you're in an argument with somebody and they always just like feel the need to talk over you and like their volume just like overpowers yours. And eventually you get to the point where you just sit there and you just see like how long they're going to keep going. It's like, okay, we ought to keep quiet and let you talk. You're the one who knows. Like, that's what I thought it as, is just like, when you're arguing with somebody and then you're just like, all right, I'm not even gonna try talking anymore. You're just gonna keep interrupting me. Like,
yeah. No, I thought of that, like the Kanye Taylor Swift thing, but then I also thought of all of my patients who, you know, they know everything because they looked it on Google and Google said this. And I'm like, okay, but I've worked in healthcare for 8 years. I think I know a little bit. And no. I'm like, okay. And so I'll just stand there and I'm like, yeah, okay. Actually, you know, X, Y, and Z. So like
right.
I thought that like, oh my gosh, no, my patients all the time are always, you know, where's the grown up? Like right here, man. Just because I look young doesn't mean that I'm not the grown up.
While we're on 64, I did highlight an area that says they are apt to react in a passive and alienated manner when confronted with the necessity to struggle for their freedom and self-affirmation. This kind of relates to a lot of women right now. I mean, we're on the struggle of our freedom a little bit, our rights. So I kind of related that to a little bit, seeing how we all just probably voted today. So I kind of related to that with our women's rights because, you know, we do get a little defensive and, you know, we struggle with having to hear everything that we're hearing right now in the news that, you know, we don't get a choice over our bodies, maybe, but as of right now, that's up in the air, which is still kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
Well, and that whole little bit can relate like to women's rights all around, because like, you know, not just with all of our rights up in the air right now, but you know, people can't be mad at us when we rebel,
right?
And you know, try out forms of rebellious action in working towards liberation, because like literally I just want to be able to like, you know, just float around, do my thing, whatever, but also have all the rights to my body.
Exactly.
Because if the roles were reversed and we were trying to take men's body rights away, can you imagine?
Right.
All hell would break loose.
I was literally just saying that in my head.
Like
God forbid.
All hell would break loose. Like, you know, oh, wait, why are you gonna get to tell me what I can do with my penis when I'm you know, can do whatever I want? And it's like, okay, well, why can't I do whatever I want?
We're both equal.
Right. Well, and like at the end of the day, when it comes down to everything, and I don't want to say the only reason, but one of the big reasons men are here are because of us. And it's like
Chapter 2 too, because men. Oh, we'll have to talk about that because that's in chapter 2.
like, I'm sorry, you would not be here if it were not for a woman.
Right. Y'all would be extinct. Y'all would be extinct. I don't care.
Bye. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. That really just hits the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
Speaking of chapter 2, I didn't realize that there was like, I guess there was an actual thing to like describe how our education is with what is it? The banking education?
Yeah, there was like it's like it's banking education and then problem something.
Yeah. But I didn't realize, like, I was like, dang, we really are heavily like, banking education based, where, the teachers are the source of information and then the students are just ooh, my bad, are just the listeners, and they deposit knowledge and we're just here to memorize and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Where
I
it
realize education these days really is like that.
Yeah. On page 72, it says it turns them into containers, into receptacles to be filled by the teacher. And then it says that the more completely she fills the receptacles, the better of a teacher she is. Which I don't know about you, but I can sit here and watch a lecture all day long and I will not learn a single thing until I actually do it. So it's like the teachers
I was about to
who just sit
say,
there
I don't think that's true.
Yeah. and talk and talk and talk. You're like, okay, in one ear, out the other. I don't remember a thing you said.
No, for like, yes, you may have pumped all of this information into me, and yes, I did pass the class, but I don't know. It doesn't mean that I'm
Google.
gonna long-term retain it. Just because I was able to pass your class does not make you a good teacher. I mean, I memorized the information, but do I actually know and understand this information? No. That's why I
No.
actually, yes, this class has been a pain in the butt on my schedule, but like, I'm actually kind of like it because it really is making me, I don't know, think more, dive
Yeah.
deeper. Because
Yeah.
like the last book that we did, I don't know, I just feel like I could literally tell you everything that happened in that book because
Yeah.
I analyzed it so heavily.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that's sad with that book is like there are chapters that relate to if not all of you, which is, and I feel like you guys know what I'm talking about. And it's just sad that we live in a world like that 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 6, whatever it is, one in a small number have things like this happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know, I've always kind of, I'm strong about like what I believe in, the environment and affordable housing and school, and like I want all of these things. And yeah, I kind of agree with how Carly, you were saying, like, it makes you think more. It's just making me dive in to this like fueling rage that I've had for so long. And I'm just like,
No, I get it.
like, oh my gosh. Because if you think about it, like 50 years ago, women had to ask their husband to open a bank account. And it's just like, what in the world? So reading that book and hearing some of those stories, there was one chapter, I can't remember, like I think it was like chapter 9 or whatever. And all I just wrote yucky right across
Yes.
the
Oh my God, that whole chapter just made my whole life feel disgusting.
Yeah, I didn't read that book because I was gonna go with that book.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Honestly, I from
I did
diving
that
so
yeah,
deep into it, I had a mild life crisis. Not a midlife crisis, because I don't plan on dying anytime soon, but a mild life crisis because I was really like, wow.
Yeah, it was very like relatable, especially like
Identity crisis.
me as like a 19-year-old, like I'm surrounded by it, like it's all up in my friends, whatever. And it was very like kind of eye-opening, I
Yeah.
guess, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I knew it was a problem, but like I didn't know it was like so apparent and so common throughout like everywhere. I was like, I know guys at Western are horrible, like 99% of them I'm just like meh. But I'm like, it happens all over the world, which is so scary to think about because like it can literally happen to anybody at any time.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know, I feel like with me being older, like Central now versus back then, like back when I was like partying at Central or State or wherever, I feel like it is totally different because
Central's crazy.
it's a lot of fun, but holy smokes. But you know, I don't want to say sexual assault or whatever was like taboo, you know, but the Me Too movement and like all of these things really kicked open the door. So like when I think of my times at Central and just I don't know, I like watching people. So there have been like plenty of times like I'll just be at the bar and I'll just be like chilling by myself watching people and I'm like, look at this idiot. Look who's over there. So it just made me think about those times where I'm like, huh, that's weird. You know, these are telltale signs of, you know, this, and this, but because it was just so like whatever, I didn't even think anything of it. Whereas now I'm like, I wish somebody would because I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can. It's interesting having the older perspective, and I'm sure it's interesting. I mean, you're living it,
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah.
weird being younger but having the older perspective. Feel so out of place.
I mean, kind of going along with like both books, again on page 73 towards the bottom, it's talking about the whole banking education thing, but it says the more completely they, as in men, accept the passive role imposed on them, the more they tend to simply adapt to the world as it is and to the fragmented view of reality deposited for them, which kind of goes along with the American hookup and the hookup culture. Like, men are supposed to go to a party and find someone to sleep with. Like, it's literally like they're weird if they don't.
They're
So
wired
again, with like this kind of thing, it's like men are supposed to get the education, they're supposed to get the job, they're supposed to do all this. And it kind of compares with both things, like more the sexual world from the American hookup or more the schooling world from this book.
Yeah, because right back to your thing, it says that the banking concept of education regards men as adaptable, manageable beings.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we, women? Like, are we chopped liver or something?
Yeah, for real. Hello.
It's just like, come here, peasant.
Right. Like, I feel like I'm the peasant in this book right now. Like,
Me too. I've related to this peasant so many times.
right.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, ooh, that hurts a little because
Yeah.
like this is my life.
Because it's making me, I guess, kind of look back so I can try to make those connections with my life. So, you know, the content is easier to understand. And I guess it's making me, I guess, see times where I have been the oppressed and I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of sucky. And it's kind of pointing out some things about like oppressors, like, you know, their behaviors of how they want to make you into a being rather than a human, you know, take that humility away from you. And then there was another little note that was here somewhere.
I actually
Oh.
highlighted part about I actually used it as a premise. It is not surprising that the banking concept of education regards men as adaptable, manageable beings, just because it's a statement that's taken to be true, used as a bias for argument or reasoning. Basically just saying that like they're trying to say that men are smarter or more worthy of an education than women, and I don't think that's true whatsoever.
Well, and one of the things that I highlighted that just now looking at it again is kind of like, on page 72, where it says knowledge is a gift bestowed by those who consider themselves knowledgeable on those whom they consider to know nothing.
Yeah.
I don't really see knowledge as being a gift.
Right.
Like knowledge is there for everyone to grab what interests them.
And it just depends on like the teacher. Like really, it depends on how that teacher's got things set up. It depends on how that student learns.
Yeah.
And it's about applying it, like applying yourself too. Like if you don't apply yourself, the work won't be there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Since we're
Like,
all in like
I
the
was never a straight A student in high school, and now that I've taken like some time off, I graduated in 2015. I've gotten straight A's this whole entire time being in college.
No, same. What
Like
the hell?
applying myself from high school to college, it's totally different. And I've had some pretty good professors throughout my time, like here at KBCC. So I know it's also like the teachers and the way I apply myself.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, and I had a similar thing. I didn't start going back to college until I was 25, 24. I started at Davenport and then transferred over. But everywhere I applied, they were like, well, your high school grades aren't good enough. I'm like, okay, but I'm not 18.
Right,
Like,
I'm not 18 anymore.
I'm 25. I have this amount of years of working experience. I have these references. And I like busted my tail and I work full time and go to school full time and still have straight A's.
Same.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, you know, I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah, like you said, knowledge is not a gift. It's about applying yourself, who's your teachers, how you learn it. It's just not a gift. Some
Yeah.
people are naturally smart, don't get me wrong, and that's a gift. But at the end of the day, it's not.
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't think that knowledge is necessarily a gift, but like I guess in our society where there is like a hierarchy of statuses, I think it's a gift to have, I guess, the privilege to have more opportunities for that knowledge, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shouldn't
Right.
be a gift because it should just all be equal opportunity. It's knowledge. Like, why is there more access to something that should just be universal? But no, I think that in a way,